Nothing ventured, nothing gained, eh?
Nothing like just being pushed into the deep end. Let's hopefully it will.
I can see a live.
Can you? Yay! Yeah. It's always like that fun lag time in between. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of the real highlight reels of Women in Business. And I'm excited to bring you an amazing client of mine this morning, Amanda Roberts from So the Story Goes. Her story for me is closely related to my story in the terms of when you leave corporate job and you have this corporate kind of cloak and way of how you have to show up, and when you come out into your own business, the first thing you have to learn to do is to let go and find out who you are and how your own intonation around subjects. Mm-hmm. I was thinking the other day, actually, I was like, man, if anyone's been watching this series and thinking, hey Nat, you've missed a couple of weeks, I'm like, just get the tagline of imperfect action and that saves your ass from so many things. So I think what's important for me is to keep it real, is don't let, having to have it all perfect, intros, outros, show notes, all that jazz, don't let it stop you from getting yourself out there. Anyway, stop bloody prattling on. Welcome to the show, Amanda. So good to have you here today.
Hi. Yeah, thanks for having me. Yay.
Tell us a little bit about, tell us the whole thing about how you came to, want to think about leaving your really well-paying job into running your own business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh gosh, where to start? Yeah, I think I'll share first off, it took me a long time to take that step, like at least 3-4 years. And, it had been in the back of my mind. And I guess the real catalyst for it was when I had Jackson. He's now 5.5. And, I come from working in New Zealand media agencies on some massive brands. So, a lot of people know ad agency life is pretty full on. Like, it's quite a lot of hours and a lot of energy that goes into working. It's a very big work hard, play hard type scenario. So I had always kind of thought in the back of my mind when I had a family that it may be a bit of a challenge. And I had, at the time that I had Jackson, I took a year off mat leave with him, and my bosses reached out to me actually when he was about 8 months old and sort of said, hey, would you consider maybe coming back a few hours a week? We really would love to get you back in. We've got a great client. It was coming back in to run the Macca's team at that point.
That's cool.
Yeah. And so it worked really well. It started out at kind of 10 hours a week and then quickly moved up to 30. And I guess, same as you, Nat, coming from corporate, it was just one of those kind of things where it was like, oh yeah, okay, this is good, this feels good. And I had a really good chat with my managers at the time, and they were really supportive about coming back into, just slowly easing back in. But it was, so well and truly back under the desk by the time the 12 months was up, working sort of 9 till 3, I think it was, Monday to Friday. Where the wheels kind of started to fall off was, of course, when you're working in the big agencies and you're running big teams. I think I came back in and we had 6 or 7 direct reports, and there was just lots going on. It was kind of like, okay, now I started to have that real kind of mum guilt where, you're kind of wanting to do the best that you can in your role there, and you've got clients that, would call you at kind of 5, 6, 7 p.m. at night, right when it was bath time and feeding time. And I recall actually, and this was one of the kind of real reasons why it was like, right, something's got to change here, was literally I had Jackson in the bath, one arm under his head, and my phone was beeping, text messages coming through, and I was like, that you could feel that kind of stress of not answering the phone to a client. So I think it started to be that real tension in terms of feeling that I was fulfilled in what I was doing in my work life, but also being present and being a mum in my personal life. So it was kind of it took a long time. After that,
refreshing though for people to hear that, you know, it took 3 to 4 years of thinking about stuff before it actually happened. And you know, after having Jackson, when you have kids, say that mum guilt is real.
Definitely.
But then you've got that pull of, but I still want to be fulfilled, right?
Yeah. And I was also, you know, concerned about if I went out on my own, would I be a complete flop? Was it
wow.
Sort of like, am I going to go out there and it's going to be kind of crickets? Like, who's going to want to come and, you know, that real imposter syndrome thing. So I sort of chickened out, actually. I ended up
I didn't even know this bit. I don't know this bit.
Oh, I came out of agency and took a position in a marketing role on client side. And it was, you know, I was very upfront with the manager that I had at the time about why my reasons of coming out of agency, and they was like, look, this is it. You come in, you do your job. They wanted a person with agency experience, so it was a nice kind of hybrid. And so she was like, and then you go home at the end of the day and you have Fridays off and blah blah blah. So we had this nice little thing kind of going, and then I was like, this doesn't fulfill me on the work side. I can be home to pick up Jackson and I'm not stressing about being caught short in the office or having to, you know, pull a 2 a.m, which I think happened in the first week that I went back from agency, 2 a.m. to get a presentation out for a client. I didn't have that pressure anymore, but then I was feeling like I wasn't actually, I'd lost the kind of buzz that you get when you work in agency. So it wasn't quite right either. So I was sort of sitting there going, I've kind of chickened out, but then I still didn't take that step. I ended up actually going back to agency. Until
so funny, I love it. I know that people listening will just be like, they get it.
I know, you probably are sitting there going, oh my God, you Doris, come on. Like, but people that know me probably be laughing because they know that I'm tend to take good consideration on these things, and so I was moving myself towards that goal. It was kind of in the back of my mind, but I was like, can I just try and figure out a way to make this sort of work? So I went back into agency again, really clear boundaries, and that worked reasonably well. But again, I think as I started to get a bit as Jackson started to get a little bit older, and I was just really missing there was that missing piece in terms of the freedom to live the lifestyle you want. I think I would be stuck in traffic for an hour and a half each way, and going back into agency, it was like, you had to be in the office for 8:30 or 9 a.m. meetings, and I'd just be sitting there stressing, like getting Jackson off to daycare, and then I have to rush in. And it just got, the mornings I just used to dread them, because it would be like, oh my God, I've got to be out the door doing this, blah, blah, blah. And we used to joke when I'd come into the office about how I was starting my second shift of the day. So
yes, oh my gosh. Even I look back and I go, how did I get my butt and onto a bus to go to the city for 7:30 and have the kids out the door? Like, was I mad? For some people, that's what they've got to keep doing, and it is questionable at the end of it, isn't it? Like, what's this all for?
So I was definitely kind of getting to that aspect, and then I hit a wall. Like, I had, it's same as you, I woke up one day and I couldn't feel the side of my face, and I was just like,
a Bell's palsy twin on here today, people.
And it scared me. Like, I actually was like, oh my God, I am literally just, I could feel I can feel the tension, when you can feel it all stuck in your kind of shoulders and things. And I was like, that was what I was like every day, just trying to do this grind of trying to make both things work. And I was like, sat down after that. Like, I was pretty lucky. I came right after a couple of weeks, but I went and had some really good chats with people, and sought out some good counselling to kind of sit down and go, why can I just not make this kind of work? Like, why is this feel so difficult? And there's people out there that are absolutely smashing it in agency, and they've got families and things. And I was just like, I felt like a bit stink, because it just wasn't the right model for me anymore. So
how did you stop beating yourself up? Because it's a really good point where you're like, well, other women seem to be doing it well and coping and getting promotions and making it. Why can't I? Tell us a little bit. That's a really interesting piece.
Yeah, I guess how I sought out some of my previous colleagues. So, this is where that initial seed had been planted way back when, even before I had Jackson, where, I would see really hardworking, like ambitious women that were in the agency with me, who were my great friends and colleagues, you know, would come back, and the day that they'd start back, they'd be like, right, I'm out. I'm not going to do this. And they'd made that decision, and I both admired them, but also was like, how can they've got this sort of figured out? So I went and talked to a few of them, and I asked them, you know, and one is now running her own business where she sets up WordPress sites, and then another lady's gone into a completely different field, like interior design. And so yeah, I just sat down and chatted to them, and I was like, this is how I'm feeling, and we really connected over that and kind of came to that same. So it was like, you know, you've got to try and put some kind of perspective and balance into what it is you actually want out of your lifestyle. And I think
I really like that, because if someone's thinking and feeling those things of you, a really good action point or stepping stone is what you did, is that take that curiosity to people who are doing it that you're close with. You can say, hey, how did you make this decision, or what, you know, what's your first piece? I really like that.
Yeah, and I guess that's where I got where it made it just a lot more permissible, that hey, there actually is that these people have done it. And I guess, you know, when you see people that have stepped out and done it, it kind of makes it like all that more achievable, right? So I'd also in my it was getting towards the end of the year, a couple of years ago, back in 2019, I had a 3-month notice period, and I was like, okay, I'm ripping the Band-Aid off. And I went into work and just said, this is me, I'm out, I'm going to go and do something else. So I'm going to go and step out into my own, kind of give it a try. I was like, I can always go back to agency if it doesn't, you know,
exactly
work.
There is always an option, right? Which is great.
There are always options. So ironically, that 3-month notice period took me to the day the first COVID case was announced in New Zealand. So so I was like, right, actually ended up going into doing some consulting, and again was kind of like, I've just left this job to go and work for other people consulting. Like, this isn't quite where I was, but you know, contracting.
It's a really sensible stepping stone out there, right? That's what I did. I spent contracts. It's a really good stepping stone, particularly when you do have to bring money in to pay the bills, but there isn't any way that you can't bring something in. So I think it's a really sensible way.
And looking back now on it, I think actually was quite good in terms of it helped me start to move into that whole thing where suddenly I'm self-employed, because that was the other aspect I never quite appreciated, was that going from a PAYE job, your clients are given to you in a way, you're looking after this portfolio, but they're business that the agency has won and you brought in, and then you're put forward as the team person, and then you develop those relationships. It's very different to when you're now working as your own self-employed person and you're reaching out and developing and nurturing those kind of relationships, and it's all on you. So that was like a thing that I probably didn't appreciate as much, stepping into working for myself. So that was quite a big learning curve.
A couple of cool things you said there, which I think is interesting, is just, you know, you talked about, you know, talking to other people who had done it, so it was kind of permissible. And I think you're right, when we have imposter, it often is that permission of, hey, actually you can do this too. And I think for people, if you're feeling that kind of imposter, it's a really good sign, a green light sign to go, if you can feel imposter syndrome, it's a little bit like jealousy, that you have in you the things that you admire in someone else who's doing this. Actually just being curious about what can your first steps look like. And you know, your second stepping stone, so talking to people, and then your second stepping stone was consulting, which made you see what it was like to be self-employed, and going, oh, actually it's all on you. So what I want people to know though is you've come in and you've hit the ground running. And I said to you before we jumped on here, I was like, I'm celebrating this stuff for you, because I get to hang out with a lot of people, and you've really hit the ground and just being able to get clients quickly. So tell us a little bit about when you decided to ease off some of the consulting and step into some of your own offerings. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I guess I knew I was going to need to build a support team around me, because when you're out there, and it can be very lonely. So that's how I found UNET. So I was like, right, I need to get somebody that can be on my team, and someone who can just help me bust all of this kind of stuff that I sort of hadn't even realized was going to be a problem until I was in it. So I was looking for those sort of support networks, and then basically joining a bunch of groups. And then, you know, I think where there was some great alignment for me with my agency roles, that I am all about developing relationships. So putting myself out there, and, you know, did a little bit of my own advertising and things, and just reaching out to people and having conversations. Like, you know, just as you say, it's all about having conversations with people and developing relationships. So yeah, it was just kind of showing up for a start and reaching out to my networks and opening up conversations and kind of just being prepared to see what sort of happened. I didn't really quite kind of know exactly how it was all gonna sort of, you know, start to develop or grow. So it was sort of like, well, here's all my skills, where are the people I can best kind of help and kind of learn as I go. And so I've had a few iterations, but now I'm starting to feel like I'm finding a bit of a stride there.
I think that's a really interesting point, is that we all have to go through the iteration, but because the social media highlight reels make it look like you've got to come out the gate and get it all right the first time, we think that having another iteration, or changing yet again our tagline, or changing yet again our banner, that there means that there's something wrong with our business or our offerings, when in actual fact everyone goes through so many iterations that the quicker you do it, the more confident you can get, or become referable within your marketplace. And what I've loved about what you've said in particular, let's just go, if we can talk about some of those challenges that came up for you in terms of some mindset stuff, because I know that when another client shares their mindset stuff, someone else will be like, oh, so that's totally normal to feel that. So talk about some of your, did you feel imposter? What were some of the things that came up where you're like, whoa, I didn't think that?
Yeah, I mean, I think I've gone through the full gamut, really. I think it was kind of like, well, who am I to come out here and start saying, here's how I can help you, I guess. Yeah, and then not wanting to, yeah, come on too strong, or you know, you've told me a lot of times about how I need to stop leading with the hammer, for example, which is the real challenge that I had coming out of the corporate, to just being a bit more me, where it was I think it was quite a challenge. Like, it's previous in my corporate job, I was part of an agency and this was our offering, etc., etc. So then to be like, okay, well, it was a real learning journey, and how I can best help people and where my skills lie to, yeah, connect with people and bring my kind of brand out, which is something I'm still figuring out.
Yeah, and it's hard, especially when you've been having to represent another business for so long, and you're only used to, on a daily basis, having to use what your tool belt, like a builder, so hammer and nails. I know they have more than that, but so then when you've got to come out and it's not about the tool belt and it's about where they at, where they want to go to, it can be a mind bend, but you've done really, really well with that.
Yeah, something I'm still refining and working on every day, because I can see with some people when I'm chatting away to them and I'm like, I've lost your A, and they're like, what was that word again? And I'll be like, oh right, yeah. So it's the jargon and the things that I think I just did not appreciate how much had been drilled into me. And yeah, it's actually been fantastic to kind of go through and recalibrate all of that in a way. So it's like, gosh, just be a bit more, yeah.
And I remember, you know, and I've got you to do it and other clients to do it, that when we first come out, we have to deal with that kind of mindset piece. And I'm like, okay, you need to go share with your friends and family what you're doing. And often that can be the bigger, it's actually easier to tell strangers than to tell my friends and family what I'm doing. But it puts a real line in the sand to a declaration for people, that's what you do. But also, the people who usually buy from us the first time around are people who know, like, and trust us.
Yeah.
And the best referrers end up being friends and family initially, right? How did you find that?
Yeah, actually, yeah, totally right. A lot of the people that I've been working with have all been, a lot of them have been referred, or just from, you know, getting to know me over time. It was sort of in the groups that I sort of show up in. So yeah, it's a nice nice little boost, I suppose, when you have people that are like, oh yes, come and talk to Amanda, and here's the kind of why you get on so well and things. So
and here's the question we all dislike, but what do you do? So tell us a little bit about, so the story goes with Amanda Roberts. What is it that you do? What do you help? Who do you help? What do you do?
Yeah, well, I'm helping people get their businesses seen, really. So it's all about understanding paid advertising and how it can help shift the needle in your business. So it's using, I'm trying not to use the hammer again.
helping women in business nail their advertising, right?
Yeah, helping you nail your advertising in short. Yeah, and it's every business is different in their needs and the way that their customer pathway works, and also what platforms you should be advertising, or whether even advertising is the right thing to be doing at this point. It's maybe you should be focusing on other areas. So yeah, what's really cool about that is no two businesses are alike. So it's very, very much an opportunity to be quite bespoke about it and help people fill in those gaps there.
What are some of the things that like fires you up about your industry? Like, you know, people come to you and think you're a magic wand and you can just turn some Facebook ads on and it's going to rain money. So tell us a little about things that fire you up.
Oh yeah, I could go on for ages about that. I think the key thing is a lot of people assume that advertising can, you can just come in and spend kind of, you know, a few dollars a day here or there on Facebook and it'll blow up your sales or blow up your, you know, funnel. And often people are disappointed when they don't see the immediate results and things. And so it's a lot of education around getting people to be a bit more realistic about what they can expect to achieve. And this is where we spend quite a bit of time sometimes going through analytics and things to kind of make sense of those results and how things are tracking and where a more realistic expectation should be in terms of what it can do. Because advertising can really augment and amplify what's working well, but it's, as you said, it's not a magic bullet. It's not going to fix something that's broken. It's one part in a very big ecosystem in terms of promoting your business.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because some people will just think, oh, because you advertise and you do advertising so well, it must mean that you're doing well. So why is it that for some people, the advertising does bring all the results that they're wanting? Tell us a little bit about some of the, I don't know, those nuances. Like, is it because they're doing it globally? Like, what is it?
It can be a combination of factors, but I think the main thing is that you have to really be curious about what you start with, because, you know, in most cases, I think it was a stat that sounds quite astonishing when you think about it, but like in 80% of campaigns that are running, they're not going to fly straight off the bat, because there's things like targeting, there's your copy, there's your messaging, there's your creative, which are all things that are trying to influence people to move through that decision-making journey. So I think it's people just need to be comfortable with being in the uncomfortable and the unknown while you're in that kind of testing and iterating phase.
And it's something that you and I spoke about. Hey, we're like a lot of influencing business people out there won't share that the campaign before the campaign that took off was where they ditched a lot of money. They did all the testing. They're just going to showcase the stuff that has gone well. Like, hey, check this out.
People often don't share the flops. They just kind of go, you know, they may have been one of the 20% that just everything kicked off and went amazingly well, but there's so many factors that can affect it. It could be time of year as well. Like last year when the elections were on for the US, was really expensive to be advertising. So it's a case of kind of knowing some of that stuff and also just being a bit patient too, because often people kind of run ads for a day or two and be like, it's not working, I'm turning it off. And it's like, oh no. Just having a look at things, and that's where
it's broken, it's not working.
Knowing your numbers and having an understanding of what your measures of success should be, and dare I say it, checking into your analytics.
That's right, you're on a mission. We're on
a
mission to bring sexy back with analytics, because you know, knowing that you're analysing your results and understanding that makes, you know, much better considered, you know, tactical move next, right?
Definitely. And that was the inspiration for the name, So the Story Goes, as well as what is your data telling you? Like, what story is it telling you that you can use those insights to then improve your results? And it's as simple as that. You know, if you're taking the time to look into things, then you can make massive changes and improvements in the way that things are running.
Why do you think that us women in business don't take the time to analyze results and go, okay, this is what this tells me, so then this is my next move? Why don't we do that? Because you make it sound so obvious, so simple. Why are we not doing that?
Well, I think time is one factor. People can find that they're going down a bit of a rabbit hole. So because there is a lot of information there, and it's a real skill actually to learn how to interpret what that information is giving you and then use that in a meaningful way. So I think definitely time. I think I've had a few clients that have said to me, oh my God, like just even the thought of looking into analytics just makes my hair curl and toes curl, and no, I'm not a numbers person. I'd just rather have somebody else kind of come in and interpret that for me. So I think this is where it's so important before you start running a campaign is to have what your measures of success and your objectives are, so that you know what it is you want to be measuring and looking at, and just taking that time. 15 minutes to kind of check in. And if you do it more often, it's like you exercise a muscle, right? It becomes a lot quicker for you to kind of go, oh, okay, that's interesting. Here's where I thought it would be. This is what my objectives are, and it's kind of not there. So where is it in the funnel that it's not quite working right?
If you could share a tip for someone who's watching this and they're part-time in their corporate or they're part-time consulting, and they really want to, they're like, I really just need to go do my thing. I'm ready now, and you've inspired someone through listening to this. What is some advice you would give them?
So if they're, you mean full-time and considering going, or already kind of moving through?
I think already moving through, like they're kind of like, yeah, I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna go.
Just keep going, but surround yourself with a really good network of other people that are doing it too. You know, like this has been heaps of the clients that I talk to, we get real about when we're talking about stuff like, it's so hard today, or this, or God, this is just like, this is painful, and so you're sharing your experiences together, and it kind of all helps spur you on to keep going and keep doing and stay the course, because we've all gone into business for ourselves for our own reasons, right? Like it's either we want to be our own boss or have more flexibility or be able to reduce the hours or do something meaningful. So it's important
to be with like-minded, isn't it?
So it was an absolute first thing that I knew I had to do was to go and seek out support people, and
So what do you think, like going forward, what do you think you're going to start and roll out for people? Like, tell us a little bit about your new offering that's coming up, and just some of the things you've got that are helping people.
Whoa.
Yeah, nothing like going in the deep end with Nat on the interview.
I'm working on an offer on how I can just keep showing up and helping more people. So there is a little offer that's kind of being finessed at the moment. I don't know how much to go into. It's
more just about, like, like you said, that the offer refinement is like when you're finding your niche. All that's just in constant refinement. And your passion piece is, being able to help women in business who are making an impact, who potentially, can't afford to go work with agencies, and being able to them to have accessibility to getting that knowledge. So they can nail the advertising, right?
And it's just the confidence to be able to go away and implement it and learn those skills, and be able to go, okay, I'm not feeling like I'm just stuck throwing money down lighting it with a match. It's okay, here are the practical steps on how I can go about improving my results and things, and coming together and kind of sharing and seeing what you're seeing, because every business is different, so every ad campaign is going to be different and do different results. So I think it's like just helping people know that there's somebody on their side, and they're kind of wing woman to help them.
That's cool. Hashtag wing woman, hashtag, bringing Google sexy back. I love it.
I just love when I've had calls in the past. So I've been doing ad audits, and a lot of people have understood this iOS 14 changes, and they've come to me and gone, oh, it looks so scary when you see this big thing popping up on Facebook going, you need to do this, and being able to break it down for them, and just a lot of people have said they found a lot of relief as somebody that kind of just help them through the process, break it down, get it done, it's off their list, and then they can get back to doing the bits of their business that they love, and feel like they've got a lot more knowledge. on how they can go about some of this stuff, you know, because again, Facebook and the likes of Google and Pinterest and AdRoll and whatever platforms you're choosing, you know, they're really intelligent pieces of software and things. And if you just set them up and tell them really simply what it is they need to do, think of it like this is your function, this is all you need to do, and set it up in that way, then it's going to work so much better as well. So rather than kind of going, oh, do I go and do all these custom conversions, or how granular should I take my audience, and people can just get really overwhelmed with it. Whereas, you know, if you start out with just thinking really simply, what is the function that this platform has to do? How does it fit within the ecosystem? And then set it up from there. Yeah, I like to just try and bring it back to a more simple way of implementing rather than
guys, can you see how wasted Amanda was in her corporate job, and now she gets to come in, like, educate and give us all her amazing, like, this stuff rolls off her tongue like it's natural and easy, and this is why we need to have women like this in business, helping women like us in business. So I really appreciate your time today.
Thanks,
I know that someone hearing your journey is really going to inspire them, and if you're bloody struggling with any of this advertising, you need to nail it. You need to come and see Amanda.
Yes.
Catch you guys later. Thank you so much, lovely. I so appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Enjoy the rest of your day. It's going to stop the live stream, not stop us. You know.